Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's check the sound and video. Is it okay at your end?
Good morning, sir. Yeah, it is okay.
Okay, so let's get started. We were discussing about pipelining, and we said that nowadays it's rare to find any processor which is pipelined. Even though 25 years back, hardly any processor was pipelined. So how come every processor is pipelined? The idea is that without much investment in hardware, you can get speed up. And who will leave this opportunity? So we were just trying to see how the data path and the control path that we discussed, they can be pipelined, and what will be the speed up and what are the other issues that arise during pipelining. And we were discussing last time that if we have a k-stage pipeline, here is on 5 stages, and we'll just tell that 5 stages is a natural pipelining because intuitively instruction execution has 5 stages. But then processors nowadays have 12 stages, 14 stages, 20 stages, and so on. So if we have a k-stage pipeline, K pipeline cycles, see in each pipeline cycle, the instruction in one stage completes. Let me repeat that. In each pipeline cycle, instruction execution in one stage completes. So when we start to execute n instructions on a k stage pipeline, first k cycles will go to fill up the pipeline. So the first instruction will advance from the first stage to second stage to kth stage, and pipeline cycles will go in that. And after that, so the first instruction will complete after k cycles. And after that, every one cycle, one instruction will complete. So that's why you have written k, that is for the first instruction to execute, and the rest n minus 1 instructions will execute it n minus 1 cycle. So k plus n minus 1. And if tau is the cycle time, the total time in a pipeline processor to execute n instructions is k plus n minus 1 into tau. On the other hand, in a similar non-pipeline processor, each instruction will take k tau cycles to complete. Each instruction will take k tau. So n instructions will take nk tau. And therefore, we can say the pipeline speed up is nk by k plus n minus 1. So that is the basic speed up equation. But we'll say that there is a lot of challenges in achieving this speed up. Namely, the pipeline hazards and the pipeline overhead. So these are the two major problems which prevent achieving this ideal speed up. But there will be speed up, may not be this, maybe slightly less than this. But one thing we must be understanding is that when the processor execute instructions at a fast rate, the memory must also supply the instructions and the data at that rate. So somehow the memory bandwidth has to increase. Our memory has to become faster, sk times. If sk is the speed up, then the bandwidth must be increased by a factor of sk. But how do we increase the bandwidth by a factor of sk? Okay, one simple answer is that we can increase the cache. We'll see that cache increase. I mean, all of you can answer. I was on the other day taking an interview for a company, and then I just asked this question to a candidate that uh, does CAS improve the performance of a computer? He said yes. But then I asked why does CAS improve the performance, and he had no answer. So don't be like that. You know, we had discussed that why does CAS improve the performance? And the CAS, if we increase, that is one way, but then we have limited CAS. So what do? We make the memory faster and the CAS faster, but that is for discussion in another class. Today, we are not going to discuss how to increase the memory bandwidth by a factor of. Now let's look at some few basic concepts. The pipeline increases the rate at which instructions complete, but then it does not decrease the execution time of individual instructions. Last class, actually, some of you had remarked that it's clear that execution time of individual instructions actually increases in pipeline execution. And the main culprit here is the pipeline register delay and the clock skew. Now, what exactly is the pipeline register delay? So can Srikanth answer? Misala Srikanth. So are you there?
Yes, sir.
So can you say what exactly is the pipeline register delay? Okay. Okay. What about Saptarshi Mandal? Can you answer what exactly is the pipeline register delay? Do you have any answer? What exactly do you think is the pipeline register delay? Saptarshi, are you there? Okay. So let's not spend time there. The pipeline register delay, the main reason is that between different stages, we'll have pipeline registers that we had seen. Because as soon as a stage completes its execution, it must be written to a sequential circuit, that's a register. And to write to any electronic circuit, you need to hold the signal for some time. It takes some time to write, and that is called as the setup time. And the other factor is the clock skew. Now let's understand this clock skew. Let's say that this is the clock signal, the line that you are seeing below here, that's the clock signal. And these are, let's say, the pipeline stages, the one that is shown in orange. And the rectangles here, these are the pipeline registers, let's say. So the clock goes to each of these registers, and the first register it reaches at certain time from a global time perspective. And then it takes little bit of time to travel to the next register. But you will say that light travels at the speed of light. How much time does it take to travel from one register to another register? And if we look at the clock, see here, it is getting displaced consecutively. And the first displacement is shown here, small one, but at the last stage, it will be significant. But you might argue that isn't the time negligible? Because after all, these signals are traveling near the speed of light. But just remember that our circuit operation is also fast. Even though we have shown the waveform like this, each waveform here is taking 1 nanosecond for a gigahertz clock. The distance for a clock cycle is a nanosecond. The cycle time is a nanosecond for a gigahertz clock. And you can see that in your laptop, and so you use 2.6 gigahertz and so on. So the cycle time is comparable to the time a signal takes from traveling, and you can just imagine that a signal inside the wiring is quite elaborate, and it may take several meters of travel. And that's what is causing the delay here, which is the clock skew, which we must take care. And both of these, pipeline register delay and clock skew, are called as the pipeline overhead. And once the clock cycle is comparable to the pipeline overhead, no further pipelining will be useful. So that's the limit. Very deep pipelining we cannot have. A pipeline of, let's say, 200 stages. There is no processor which has pipeline with 200 stages. And the clock skew, if we look further, the clock edge reaches different parts of these different registers at different times. And even though it has to travel few meters, but the clock rate is gigahertz, so nanosecond is the cycle time. And to travel a meter, how much does the light signal take? And remember, these travel lower than the light signal. So what is the distance that light travels in 1 nanosecond? CG computation for you. And you can check that we are talking real problem here. As I was saying, that the 5-stage pipeline is the most natural pipeline, because intuitively all instructions execute in these stages. The first is the instruction fetch. So the instruction is fetched from memory. Instruction decode. We decode, look at the opcode, and look at the other parts of the instruction, which register and so on, and then execute the instruction. And if there is a memory operation required, like load store instructions, those are carried out here. But you might ask this question, that what happens if an instruction doesn't require memory operation? Like these are not load store instruction. Okay, they don't do anything much. So then you might ask that why this here should be there only for the load store instruction. The thing is that for the pipeline to work, all instructions must go through the same set of stages. All must take equal time. That was a precondition for pipelining. And therefore, the other instructions don't do much here. Only the load store instructions, they do the memory operation. And finally, write back. What does write back involve? Write back involves updating the register. Let's say we do a add instruction. The two registers are added, result produced in the execution stage. Don't do much here in the memory operation stage. This one cycle, they don't do much. And then last one, to update the destination register. And for the store word, in the memory, the word is stored, and then what do they do? Nothing much. But for load word, once the memory is accessed, then it has to be updated in the register, and it has to be updated in the register. The memory operand has to be read, and that has to be updated in the register. So this is a natural 5-stage pipeline, but we can split this further. We will not discuss that in this course, but in a higher course you will see that we might have pipeline stages with 12, 14, 22 stages. And not only that, these stages themselves are replicated. That means we have this one pipeline and another pipeline near it and so on. And those are called as the superscalar that we will not discuss in this course. And if we look at this diagram, the first instruction enters the stage 1 at time 0. And by the time the first instruction completes the stage 1 and it goes to stage 2, the second instruction enters stage 1. Sorry, the second instruction enters stage 1 and the first instruction enters stage 2. In the next cycle, the third instruction enters stage 2 and the third instruction enters stage 1, second instruction enters stage 2, and first instruction enters stage 3. And at the end of fifth cycle, the first instruction will graduate, complete the stage 5, and so on. So this is the timing diagram for this, and at any time, we can see that a number of instructions are under execution. But based on the explanation that we gave on this slide, let's see if you have any queries. If you don't have any queries, I would like to ask a question. So does anybody have any query on what we explained about this 5-stage pipeline?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, Jasmine, what's your query?
Sir, can there be some efficient sort of pipeline where, depending on whether there's a load store, it can be either 4-stage or a 5-stage to save time during the operations when there is no load store?
Okay, see, those are called as dynamic pipelines, where the instructions take different paths in the pipeline. Some graduate after 4 stages, etc. But those controlling those is extremely difficult. We are not discussing the dynamic pipelines because they are so complicated, they are not used. It's hard to find a dynamic pipeline, the one that you are talking of, where different instructions can take different stages. Due to the control issues, they are not used actually, the dynamic pipelines. All we are discussing and they are being used are the static pipelines, where every instruction goes through the same sequence of stages. So other elements. So good, Jasmine, a good question. Just note down. Okay. Any other questions?
So if the outcome of one stage affects what instruction has to be in another, the next instruction to be executed,
Okay.
how will that be handled?
Okay, yeah, so those are the branches and the jumps and so on. Like here we are assuming that the instructions are flowing regularly and there is a huge sequence of instruction, all of them are getting executed one after other. But then there can be branches where, depending on the branch outcome, a different instruction has to be fetched. And those are called as the pipeline hazards. We will look at those hazards and we will see how they can be handled. Initially, when the pipeline was proposed 40 years, 50 years back, these hazards that made the researchers so pessimistic that some of them said that pipeline is useless. Because if there are these kind of hazards, what do we do? We need to redo all that work and so on. Maybe in the next class, we'll just touch upon that, the pessimism that they had. But then fortunately, all those vanished almost. We had very, very accurate branch prediction. We'll just look at some simple branch prediction as we proceed. And in the pipeline, we'll use predictors which will predict 99.999% accuracy what is the next instruction. So those concerns slowly vanished as the predictors became more and more powerful. The instruction stream became more sequential. I mean, almost like sequential. So we will come to that point little later. But here, are there any other questions? Let me just ask one question, since you don't have questions. Tarun Kumar Reddy. Tarun Kumar Reddy. Muhammad Samir. Are you there? Ravi Haris Bhai?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm just asking this question that of the different classes of instructions that we discussed, which one will take the maximum time in the 5-stage pipeline? See, all take 5 cycles, that we know. But given a on-pipeline situation, which instruction will take maximum time to complete? In a multi-cycle uniprocessor, I mean, in a multi-cycle processor, not pipelined. Pipelined, okay, every instruction will take the same number of cycles to complete, that we said. But in a multi-cycle processor, based on our discussion that we had, which instruction will take the maximum time?
Sir, is it executing the instruction?
No, my question, please understand my question. My question is that we discussed about different types of instruction. We discussed the arithmetic logic instructions. We discussed the jump instructions. We discussed the branch instructions. We discussed the memory instructions, load, store, and so on. So out of these different classes of instruction, which specific instruction will take the maximum time in a multi-cycle processor? We know multi-cycle and single-cycle processor. A single-cycle processor is one where every instruction completes the same time, a single cycle. By one cycle, one instruction completes. But in a multi-cycle processor, so I'm asking, in a multi-cycle processor, which instruction will take the maximum number of cycles? Can anybody answer this question?
The memory
Ravi,
instruction, sir.
Ravi, can you answer?
Hello.
Ravi, can you? Ravi, yes, bhai, can you answer?
Yes, sir. Is it the memory instructions that take the maximum amount of cycles?
Which memory instruction?
The load store instructions.
Do load store take similar cycles? I mean, both of them, or do you want to single out one of them?
Sorry, sir. I'm not sure about the single one.
Okay. Snehalata Singh, can you answer this question? which instruction takes the maximum time in a multi-cycle processor? Okay, so can anybody answer this question? Okay, so as you were saying that see, the store instruction not only uses all these 5 stages and does the memory access to read the operand, but also has to write back the operand. For the load instruction, all these stages it does work, whereas the store instruction completes after writing to the memory. Write back, there is nothing for the store instruction. And you look at every instruction, they take less time compared to the load instruction. And as we proceed, we'll see that the load instruction is a special instruction. It takes maximum time actually. And which instructions takes shortest time? Okay, that you think about it. Which instructions takes shortest time in a multi-cycle processor? But let's proceed. Now let's do one exercise. Now we have a 4-stage pipeline. And the latency of these 4 stages, the time it takes to complete these 4 stages is 20, 30, 100, and 40. There's 4 stages with 20, 30. And there we'll ignore the pipeline overheads. And we want to find the pipeline cycle time, the pipeline clock rate. Okay, so we want to find the pipeline clock rate. Very basic question, very simple question. So who would answer this question? Sai Nissan.
So the one with the maximum delay, I would find the frequency respecting to that.
Yes. Yes. So the stages typically they take different times, but the pipeline cycle time cannot be less than the stage having some time. So 100 nanosecond is the maximum here, and the cycle time, pipeline cycle time should be at least 100 nanosecond. And if you convert 100 nanosecond to clock rate, it will come to 10 megahertz. So good, Ambuj. Now let's proceed. Now let's do one more exercise. So here we have 5-stage pipeline, and there are buffers, registers in between, and the register delay here is 1 nanosecond. That's a pipeline overhead. Now in this situation, we want to find the pipeline throughput and the pipeline latency. And these terms, pipeline throughput and pipeline latency, we did not really define these terms because definitions are typically boring. If I had shown 10 slides with definitions, you'll get entirely bored. So in part of this exercise, we'll just define these terms, pipeline throughput and pipeline latency. The pipeline throughput is how many instructions are completed per second. That's the definition of pipeline throughput. Per second, how many instructions will complete. And the pipeline latency is how much time does one instruction take to complete. So each buffer register writing latch delay is 1 nanosecond. And again, understood the first exercise. This exercise will be rather straightforward because 10 nanosecond here plus 1 to write, cycle time, and then the latency you can compute. And then you can compute the throughput. So please try, not really give the numerical answer here, please try. Now the MIPS pipeline stages. So far we have been looking at a very general pipeline without reference to MIP. The MIPS processor again uses a 5-stage pipeline. There are many generations of MIPS processor, but the basic MIPS processor has 5 stages. Again, similar actually. Instruction fetch, operand fetch, arithmetic operation, memory access, write back. Same stages, even though they have given slightly different name, but same. We will use both these interchangeably. In the sense, we will say instruction fetch, operand decode and fetch, arithmetic operation, memory access, write back, almost similar what we discussed. Now, the work that these stages do, we have already seen in the general case, and here also same thing happens. In the second stage, instruction is decoded, opcode is decoded, registers are identified, and the operands are fetched. So that's the decode stage, execute, memory, and so on. So this we already have discussed the steps of instruction execution, fetch instruction from instruction memory. Read the registers while decoding the instruction. So that means some parallel activity is there actually, because this hardware, we can, while we are decoding the instruction, we can also, the other part of the instruction, we can process the register operand, we can keep processing that and identify the registers. Execute the operation or calculate an address. So for different classes of instruction, if it is a ALU instruction, we'll execute the operation in this stage. But if it is a branch, jump, etc., from the 16-bit offset, we need to add, remember, and so on. Or in a indexed addressing. Okay, in indexed addressing, we need to add the offset to the base address, and that we do here in third step. Access the operand in data memory, and this is for load and store. So the fourth stage is there for these memory operations, load, store. The other instructions hardly do anything here. And finally, write the result into a register. So that is write back. And if we show this in a pictorial form, in the first stage, we read the instruction and also compute the next PC. We have a separate adder circuit where we add 4 to PC to make it ready for fetching the next instruction. In the second stage, we decode the instruction and also read the register operands if they're there. For some instructions, there may be 2 register operands, some instruction 1 register operand, 1 immediate operand, and so on. So that is taken care here. And the third stage, we execute for ALU instructions and for branch, etc. type of instruction. We compute the next PC because we need to add the 16-bit offset, like we are branching to some place. We need to add that to the PC, 16-bit, convert to 32, and then we add to the PC, and here we create the next PC. So the +4 that was computed, we add to that the offset, and then we have the next PC ready here. The fourth stage, I was saying that only for load store here, we just read the data memory or write to the data memory. And the fifth stage is update the register. So that's what I written down here. Same thing what I said is for your reading. What happens in every stage, please read. Very intuitive. Matches with our mental understanding of how instruction executes. What are the different stages of execution? So it's not at all difficult to understand the MIPS pipeline stage activities. But then let us analyze what are the resources required in different stages. In instruction fetch, what resource is required? Okay, the resource required is we need the instruction memory because we need to read the instruction from the instruction memory, and also we need to update the PC. In the decode stage, what's the resource required? We need the register file to read the operands. What is the resource required in execute stage? You need the ALU to perform any operation that is required. In the memory stage, what's the resource required? Is the data memory. Need to either read from data memory or write to the data memory for load store instruction. And what about the write back stage? Here again, we need the register file to update the result. And if we represent these different stages and what is the resources required, we will have this diagram. Same thing here, that the register file is required in the decode stage and also in the write back stage. The data cache is required in the memory stage. The ALU is required in the execution stage, and the instruction cache is required in the fetch stage. So same thing, we just represented using a diagram for better understanding, because later as we proceed, we will have questions that we have to answer based on our understanding of what are the resources required by different stages in the execution of instruction. And we had already seen these things, discussed the data path for instruction fetch. I'm just writing that down here because we'll see how a simple pipeline will be done for this data path. We had seen this fetch data path, we had seen the data path for R type of instruction, and we had seen the execution of the R type instruction. The same slides I have just put it here. Execute load and store, sign extend, and then add, and so on. Branch instruction. We've seen this data path, just use the same set of slides here. And jump instruction, this was the data path, and we had put them all together. And this is the one we had got, if you remember. Now we want to pipeline this. This is the unpipelined data path we had already seen. Now we want to pipeline this. So we have drawn these dotted lines here. The part here where the PC, based on the PC, we access the data memory and write in the register here. Instruction register we have written here. And then based on that, we have this register file is accessed, instruction is decoded, and then the ALU operation is done. And if it is a load word instruction, then it is written into another register, load memory data register. And then based on that, the register file is updated. So the same data path we have just put these dotted lines that how we will pipeline this. And we have done that actually. That is the pipeline for the MIPS data path. We have added these registers here. These are the pipeline registers, where once the work for a stage is completed, the combinational logic that is there, they produce result. Okay, here ALU, and once a stage completes, the results are written to the corresponding register. So that's all we have done here. Very intuitively split into 5 stages, and we have just put these registers here because at the end of the pipeline cycle, the result have to be stored here. So as the instruction is read, it's written into the IFID register, and in the next cycle, another instruction is read, and by that time, this register drives this register, the register file, and the results, the opcode is, the operands are obtained, and that is written into the next register, that is IDEX register, and so on. So I was just asking this question, that do all MIPS instruction take 5 cycles to complete? Or is there any instruction, even though we initiate one instruction every cycle, but then is there some instructions which don't take 5 cycles, they are already complete before 5 cycles? Are there any such instructions? So just think about it based on what the way we described the operation. Which instructions take less than 5 cycles to complete? And there are 4 groups of registers. These are the pipeline registers between IFID stage, IFEX stage, EX and MEM stage, and memory and write back stage. And whenever anything is computed, as the computation progresses, these registers, they keep on keeping more and more complete values of the result. These are saved safely in the context of the instruction that is executed. So here is a diagrammatic illustration of how things work there. Now these are the 4 groups of registers between the 5 stages. There are 4 groups of registers, and during the instruction fetch stage, this register stores the instruction actually. After the instruction fetch, it stores the instruction. And then in the instruction decode stage, we get the instruction from here, decode the operand, and get the, decode the opcode and get the operands, fetch the operands from the register file. And once the operands are obtained, they are stored in this register. And by that time, the second instruction is fetched and has occupied this place where the first instruction was occupying the register here. Now that has been used up to fetch the operands, and now that is occupying here, the operands are in the IDEX, and the second instruction is now residing in the IFID, and so on. Now the second instruction is here, third instruction comes out, and the results are stored in here, and so on. But then this is for our conceptual understanding how it works. But as we will look further, because there are many issues in pipeline, as we look further, like branch prediction, hazards, and so on, we will not really bother about the pipeline registers. They are there and they are doing their work. Now let's look at how these pipeline registers work, a slightly more different perspective. So the instruction fetch, after the instruction fetch based on the PC, the instruction is staying here. The different fields of the instruction, the opcode, the source register, destination register, etc. So the two source registers, they are used to get the opcode from the register file, and these two are straight away passed. The destination register is passed to the next pipeline register, and here these R1 and R2 are used to get the value here stored in the register file, and these are updated here. Just R1 and R2 in place of that. The others have some network R1, R2 by the value here, and this has become blank. This is now ready for occupation by the next instruction. And then after execution, now result is here and the destination register is here. Now these two are important. Now the result and the destination register, they will be used to write the result back here, and now everything is empty. So that's the intuitive understanding of how an instruction on the form add R3, R2, R1 will work. We have another example here. There is an immediate. So add R2 with immediate constant store in R3, and see here as part of the instruction 1 to 3 is present, and R2 alone is fetched here and the value is put here, whereas 1 to 3 passes straight away here. So we have the value of the register R2 I'm sorry, there is a lot of disruption today. So the value of the register is put here and the immediate part of the instruction is straight come here. And then these are computed, the immediate with the register, and the destination result number is here and the result is here. These are used to update. So just have given examples of two, and the rest you can just imagine how they will work. Now this is one diagram where we show what are the different resources that are used in different stages. So first stage is the instruction memory, register. In the second stage, the important resources that are used. The third stage uses the ALU, but some don't do much here. That's why I've shown the bypass here. And the fourth stage, some instruction use data memory and the others take a bypass here, and then the register. So this is an important diagram. Helps us answer many questions. What is the ALU doing in cycle 4 and so on. And as we discuss the hazards in the next class, this will require this. Now the pipelining of the MIPS instruction set architecture was straightforward. Intuitively, we almost got that. The main reason why it is easy is that all the instructions are same length, few instruction formats. The memory operations occur only during load store, but then we'll have to see what makes it hard. That is for the next class, is about the structural hazard, control hazard, and the data hazards. There are three types of hazards. I think you were asking about this control hazard, that what happens if there is a branch or something, but there are other hazards, the structural and data hazards. We'll look at this in the next class. And this is the intuitive diagram that how the instruction executes. The partial results are stored in the pipeline registers and as the instruction progresses. So initially you can see that the result is produced in the instruction fetch and stored in this pipeline register. In the next cycle, the data that was stored here is driving these stages here, the register file and so on. And it is getting stored in the next register file, that's the instruction decode stage. And in the next pipeline stage, pipeline cycle, this register is driving now this circuit. The results are getting produced and stored in this circuit, this register. And similarly the last one, and finally this will be used to write onto the register file. So that's an intuitive understanding of how it works. And for store memory, we don't need a write back, it just stops here. Fifth cycle, do nothing. And just observe for the load word, that's the one which takes the maximum effort by the processor. And here the results that are produced by the data memory, that is reading the data memory, get stored here in the pipeline register. And also the destination register address is there in this register, pipeline register, and both of these are used to write onto the register file. Now let's look at this diagram having a sequence of instructions under execution. By the time the load word is loading the result into the memory, the subtraction instruction is executing in the fourth stage. The add instruction, of course, subtraction is not doing much here, as you can see, because it's only data memory. The add instruction is using the ALU. The load word instruction here, we are fetching the operand, sign extend, and all that is happening. And in the first, by that time, the add instruction is getting fetched. So these 5 instructions are occupying different stages of the pipeline. Just wanted to show that in this diagram. But what about the control? Because as the instruction completes one stage, go to the next stage, the control circuit must decide various types of control signals. So how does that happen? The answer is that, see, there are 5 instructions executing at the same time. The controller cannot really handle 5 instructions. It will become extremely complicated. So for the first instruction, it computes the control signals during the opcode decode stage. Based on the opcode, it determines the control signals and stores in the pipeline register. See here, the second stage, the control circuit identifies the control signals required, stores here, and those are used later to really drive that instruction. Now we have understood the basic operation of the pipeline. Please read through in the book also. And we'll stop here unless anybody has a quick question. We have already exceeded the class time. So we'll stop here. We'll continue with this, the other issues in the pipelining of the MIPS processor in the next class. Thank you.